Boy, I tell you, the technology bug will hit you every single time. Ken Rashad joined by Jared Hoffman and Chris Stevens. It's been an interesting week, to say the least, and I guess in some cases, uh, let's just say that you know what? Let's just get right to it. So, in case you've been living under a rock, some of you are probably aware of FAMU's $237 million problem. Um, it okay. So you guys know that this has been a situation in which, at one point, it's been celebrated that FAMU was going to be gifted $237 million from an individual that practically no one had ever heard of before, and who apparently has a track record of trying to do this type of thing before, only to have been snuffed out by the various institutions that he's approached in the past. And as celebratory as the original announcement was, in us reporting it and so forth, there was some immediate scrutiny that was brought about, due in large part to a article that was published asking the question if FAMU had been scammed. And the what is the gentleman's name? Jarrell Blakely, who was on, who Kendrick interviewed and went through great detail about his findings and so forth. And it obviously created quite a bit of talk on the social media sites and so forth, to the extent that it led to FAMU releasing an official statement indicating, and I'm paraphrasing here for all intents and purposes, basically saying, man, this ain't nothing but a thing. We didn't had this money in the bank for the last month. We vetted this individual, and we all good. That's pretty much what this was. And me, being the person that I am, and one who wants to always do right by making individuals giving people credit for the roles that they play in various capacities at the school, I rolled the dice and poked my chest out. And how dare you just dare to talk about those folks like that? You know, they know what they're doing. Well, now here we are, Saturday, May 11th, 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time, and it appears those people did not know what they were doing. So the money apparently isn't the money that we all thought it would be. And as a result, FAMU President Larry Robinson recently announced on yesterday that this donation, for now, is quote unquote on pause. So, Chris Stevens, I will start with you, sir. Your thoughts about these recent developments.
Well, the line for apologies forms here in terms of talking to Mr. Blakely, because if you missed last week's our live show Monday, I said that, joke in a joking manner, that this gentleman, of course, who was a Howard grad, I said he's still mad about the Celebration Bowl. Turns out he don't give a damn about the Celebration Bowl. He just gives a damn about the truth. And the truth is, FAMU got scammed by a dude who looks like a bootleg Inspector Gadget. And that, to me, is bad for the reputation of the university. And it doesn't look good because, as we're going to get into further detail, it seems that no one outside of Larry Robinson and a couple of other people whose names we will divulge shortly knew about this particular non-disclosure agreement that was signed ahead of this alleged $237 million, $750,000 donation. So right now, this looks bad for Florida A&M, and I really want people to, steer clear from the blaming HBCUs thing, because I've seen it all over social media. Because if you guys haven't been following the coverage, I've pretty much been the beat writer for this whole week of shenanigans, and just going through social media, seeing people say, well, y'all know HBCUs have poor leadership, they can't run it. This isn't a black college problem. This is a Florida A&M. This is uniquely tailored to the highest of the seven hills, whether the alumni and the fans want to believe that or not. The Seven Hills right now, they got some problems. The hills ain't healing. The hills are there's starting to be some valleys in the hills. You know what I'm saying? So let's pause on. Yeah, I'm stealing Larry Robinson's phrase. So we're going to put a pause on this. We're going to put a pause on blaming all HBCUs for this mess. This mess is uniquely qualified, suited, and tailored to Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. And this isn't the first time they've been caught out there. Word to Khalees. So they really need to figure out what it is they need to do to get right, because right now they are doing everything wrong.
Jared?
If there was any school that didn't need this scandal going down, it would have been Florida A&M. You got just 2022, they have the eligibility crisis to where almost half their roster couldn't play their season opener against North Carolina, including Isaiah Land, who was just coming off of winning the Buck Buchanan Award. 2023, they have the rap video that was filmed in their locker room without the approval of the team, and they had to get that taken down. And then the start of this year, you had Willie going on to Duke and the student body getting on AD Sykes because she was apparently taking too long in the coaching hire. Now this. Now look, I don't want to go as far as to criticize the brother that sent the donation. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had good intentions. It's not looking good for him, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. What I want to say to Florida A&M is, what was your due diligence? And did that due diligence come before you signed the NDA upon accepting the donation for $237 million? What was your due diligence? Because if you had this money a month before, and I'll make sure I'm not saying this wrong, the FAMU Foundation did not know about this donation, then you did not do good due diligence. If you did not talk to our financial advisor, if you did not talk to someone who was knowledgeable about how the funding was going to be distributed to you, then you did not actually do your due diligence. If there are still questions about who this person is that is sending this money to you, you did not do good due diligence. Why? Because there's no reason why you have this money allegedly a month before you officially announced it. There's no reason why this man should be at your commencement giving a commencement address if there are still questions about who he is. There is no reason why he should be up there on stage with his mask on wrong, put it above your nose. You're not protecting anything, with it not being over your nose. I'm so sick of people 4 years after Covisha, you still wearing your mask. But that's besides the point. He should not be at your commencement if there are still questions about who he is and the validity of this donation and how it is going to be distributed to you. So that is, I have nothing but questions, because I don't want to speak and go jump out the window and say something that's wrong. I just have a bunch of questions, because why is there still skepticism about this if you truly did your due diligence? Apparently you did not do it good enough, because we have more questions than answers.
Okay, well, so folks, and let me just reiterate, we apologize for the delay. This show was actually supposed to start about an hour ago, and things just went haywire at the very last second, and so we had to kind of make some pivot. We had to make a pivot. I am interested, though, for those of you who are coming in, We want to hear your comments. Jared, though, I think this is an opportunity. So let's try to answer some of those questions, because my good man, my good friend Avis Heath called me out on social media because apparently he believed that I was being somewhat condescending towards the individual who wrote that piece. And I was like, was I really being condescending? Was I really? And so I went back and I reviewed the video of the last show. And I said, you know what? Maybe kind of, sort of. Okay. Only because I was trying to weigh not so much his credibility, but his credentials, as opposed to the credentials of the entire Florida A&M system, i.e., the president's office, the board of trustees, and most importantly, and the group that I was trying to defend most emphatically was the FAMU board, the FAMU Foundation. Okay. So it appears that you know what, I maybe I was just a tad bit just a tad bit what's the word that I'm looking for? I guess I was just a little bit rough on the brother. So so I'm gonna I apologize for my tone and for the tenor. I just knew there was no way possible that the so-called the brother who asked the question about whether or not this was a scam, if you will, impossible, right? Only to find out that not only did certain members of the board of trustees not know about it, it appears just about the entire board of the FAMU Foundation didn't know anything about it until they made the announcement at the graduation. So Jared, to answer your question about the due diligence, obviously there was no due diligence at the for the individuals who had a role in this. But clearly, in the buck starts with Larry Robinson, he didn't do anything at all. We're gonna dive deeper into this, like you said. But Chris, what are we to make now, given where we are right now with FAMU? I mean, what now?
I don't think there's a crisis comms firm in the country or the world that can handle this. They can't even call Olivia Pope out of retirement to fix this foolishness, man. This is terrible. This is terrible on all levels. Like, we're talking about a university that just can't get right under any circumstances. Like Jared laid out, there was the ineligibility scandal of 2022. There was the rap video in 2023. Of course, then we just had this whole thing where people were just literally trying to make A.D. Sykes' job a living hell because she wanted her own head coaching hire for football, and the football players and the team just absolutely just, and the fan base just absolutely just ripped all of that away. So now, not even 6 months after Simmons and Colsey Gate, here we are again with something much more devastating. And I think what we're gonna probably find out in the short order is that when you're a state institution, the government is always going to have their hands in something. And Florida has probably top 2 worst governors in the United States, and probably not number 2. So if you don't think Shorty DeSantis in his kitten heel boots is not going to step in and try and muscle his way in to figure out what's wrong with Florida A&M, you are sadly mistaken. Like, this is devastating for Florida A&M. And shouts out to Cedric Walker in the chat. He makes a great point. The sad part is that FAMU will have their presidents feel the blame for their incompetence. No law or business school is being taught at that school. Bad prep. No, once again, you may have missed it when we started, Cedric. We're not going to blame all HBCUs for this.
Right. Exactly.
This is not a problem.
Not an HBCU problem. This is not.
This problem does not range from Dover, Delaware to Dallas, Texas. This is strictly in Tallahassee, Florida. Let's be very clear about that. So yes, and I think what's interesting about the Robinson situation is that Florida A&M's previous regime, when they ran Dr. Elmira Mangrum, who was probably one of the smartest people on the planet, forget in academia, you know, they forced her out to the point where she said, you know what, I don't even want to finish the last half of the year of my contract. Y'all can have this job. And they put Robinson in. And honestly, I want to ask the Florida A&M folks this, and y'all can, you know, talk crazy to me on social media all you want. You might get blocked for it, but I'll consider your points. Is Florida A&M that much better off under Larry Robinson than they were under Elmira Mangum? If you can answer that question for me respectfully, I'll hear you out. But as right now, it doesn't look like they are.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. Because you guys were making, you guys were echoing all of the points, all of the things that kind of went wrong for FAMU. But I will say this, Cedric, because you said that their president, well, I guess will have to fill the blank for their incompetence. I'm gonna tell you now, brother. I think in this particular situation right here, Larry Robinson is the person to blame for this. Because so here is where I got in trouble from the last show, because people, understandably and rightfully so, said, Ken, you were being condescending towards the guy who wrote that article about FAMU. My thing is, okay, you look at this guy and what he indicated. Now, it wasn't so much about the donor, Jerami or whatever his name was. I really didn't care about that. What'd you say?
Jabroni.
Whatever. I really didn't care about that. The point that I was trying to make was, okay, at that time, he produces the article. FAMU produces the statement on official letterhead from the Office of Communications. They are telling you, they are telling us this has been vetted. We had the money or the stocks or whatever it is transferred a month ago. So me trying to be the understanding person that I am, you know, I'm thinking, you look at him and then look, and I still stand on this. If you get a chance, and I said this before, Google who the members are of the FAMU board foundation. Look at their credentials and you tell me, is there any logical reason to expect or to think that they wouldn't be able to sniff this out to conclude this ain't what this brother is trying to make us believe? There is no way in hell. So with respect to incompetence, and again, man, I'm not going to blame FAMU. I'm not going to blame all of FAMU. As that song goes, one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch. This is truly one of those situations where the buck stops with Larry Robinson, because here's the thing, because as it relates to HBCU, that common denominator is HBCUs lack resources. We lack resources, and they're underfunded and all this other stuff. And historically speaking, for the most part, yeah, there is some truth to that. However, what makes HBCUs so great, historically speaking, is that even though they lack resources compared to their white counterparts, the people who led these institutions, the people who were in leadership, had to be respected for their resourcefulness, meaning that they were able to leverage what little they had or didn't have, and they were able to make the most of it. And that's what made them so effective. Because when graduates graduated from these institutions and they went out in the world and did their thing, you couldn't tell these HBCU graduates jack. They had their stuff together. In this particular instance, that doesn't apply here. Larry Robinson, president of the #1 rated public HBCU in the country, had the FAMU Board of Trustees, has the FAMU Board of Foundations. Look at those individuals. In his case, he had the resources. He had the resources, the expertise, and the individuals, the subject matter experts. He had the ability and I guess to some degree, the obligation to leverage a 9-figure deal it's a no-brainer to go to those individuals and to leverage their expertise. He had the resources to get this right, and he didn't do it. That's the difference. That is the difference. Now, you can talk about this NDA. You've got these individuals who talk about, AD Sykes signed off. And even Shante Friday Stroud, who was the executive director. They all and Sutton and a number of other employees of the university who signed off this NDA, from what all intents and purposes is that in itself is a red flag, for the simple fact that it isn't something that's common. And like I said, I don't profess to even try to know all of this stuff, but okay, so apparently that drew a red flag. But for those of you who talk about AD Sykes, who does she report to? Larry Robinson. It was revealed the board members during that meeting of the FAMU Foundation, and I if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't really look at the whole thing, but I want to say one of them asked Friday Stroud the question, "Who do you report to?" And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she said, "I report to the president." So even she reports to the president. The buck stops with him. So let's just kind of put this all in perspective, man. This is just horrible. This is just horrible, and this could have been avoided. This really could have been avoided, but here we are.
And if I may, I reached out to a very reliable source about checks and balances over president and board of trust and versus board of trustees. That resource is my mother, who recently retired after 40 years in the social service sector. She has worked on different boards, and she's been executive director a few places. So I asked my dear mother, I said, "This is bad, isn't it?" She says, "Yes, everything has to be to a majority vote for the board of directors and approved. And if it breaks, it's the president's job to break a tie. You can refer to Robert's Rules of Order for verification. Unless the board has given president autonomy, and that's unlikely, that is why a board is in place for checks and balances."
Wow.
So thank you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. I didn't forget your cream cheese pound cake. You can pick it up tomorrow. But thank you, Mom. That being said, it's all there from a woman who's worked on social services and boards for 40 years. A board is in place for checks and balances. Larry Robinson, hop, skip, leapfrog, did the percolator, whatever you want to call it, over checks and balances. So, like Ken said, yes, people are going to this is probably just another reason for whoever AD Sykes, whoever cornflakes she number one to end, number uno to end, for them to be mad at her, to say, "Oh, the AD signed it, why can't we get rid of her?" And then people are going to look at Executive Director Friday Stroud sideways, but she has to report to Larry Robinson. So these two ladies, who are probably going to be the highest up and get the most blame, shouldn't get any of the blame. I mean, well, not any of the blame, but not most of the blame, because this is on the president.
This is on the president,
who just leapfrogged over everybody and said, "You know what? $237 million. It might sound too good to be true, but it's good enough for me." And that's why Florida A&M is in the spot they're in right now.
Now let's take this just a step further, because there's another person here whose name we haven't mentioned, and who probably has to take some of this heat too. And if any of you FAMU folks out there listening, because I want to be careful, because again, there are a lot of people who've been in talking about this. They've confused individuals who work for who are board members for the foundation versus individuals who are board members for the board of trustees. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that I saw pictures, because they were showing various photos at the end of Jeremy. He was in at the board table with Larry Robinson, and I believe there was AD Sykes, and I even believe Friday Stroud was there. And if I'm not mistaken, did I not see a photo of what's her name, Kristen Harper, in that photo? If I'm not mistaken, Kristen Harper is the chairman of the board of trustees. Somebody, I want to say I saw her in those photos. I think that was her. I like I said, I want to be careful, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw photos of Kristen Harper, who is the chairman of the FAMU board of trustees. And if she signs off on this, And then there was a guy, Deron Givens. This was on CNN, by the way, this morning. Deron Givens was on with Victor Blackwell, and they were talking about this. And Deron Givens says even he didn't know, and he's on the board of trustees. And I'm just saying, man, this this is almost like a movie. Never look, man. I'll admit I am gullible. There was look. I'm like this. They can't get this wrong. There's no way they can get this wrong. You know, you put this on letterhead. You put it. This is coming from the Office of Communications, and we've gotten this. We received this money last month, and we vetted this. And despite what you guys are saying, and they even said it, we understand there are some issues with this guy, but do know that we made this. We vetted this guy, and Israel Carey, it made CNN. It was on. They talked about it for about a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. It was on CNN this morning with Victor Blackwell, and a member of the board of the FAMU board of trustees was on there. So it's disheartening, man. It really is, and I just don't know. I mean, there is no way. Look, I'm not going to sit up here and advocate because I don't know the lay of the land of FAMU as well, but I just there is no way in hell. I can understand maybe $1 million. Maybe you screw up $25 million. Maybe you screw up $50 million, but $237 million. Somebody, I'm just look, man. Oh my God. I've said enough, man. Jared, you got anything to add, man?
Yeah, like so when I first saw the news, and I said this on the live show on Monday, when I saw 237 million, I thought it was 237,000. That's what immediately aroused my skepticism of the donation. I didn't think it was a scam. I didn't think it was I wasn't automatically calling scam, but I was skeptical. I was like, well, how is that going to work? You know what I mean? Because there's no way that this person whose name I've never heard of just somehow has $237 million to donate. And then you see that, oh, it's in stocks and it's over a period of time. So what it sounds like, and I may be way out of line with what I'm about to say, but this is just what I'm thinking. It sounds like what President Robinson thought was this was going to be groundbreaking and that nobody was going to question it. It was just so groundbreaking that no validity of it. The problem is that we live in an age where everything we automatically assume everything is a scam, especially when it's in an amount of money that we have never seen in amongst HBCU donations. We remember Mackenzie Scott when she donated millions of dollars to multiple HBCUs. Howard got money, Bowie got money, and the thing is that that's Mackenzie Scott. We know who she is. She's the husband of Bezos. So we know who she is. So that we don't have to question because we know where that money came from. When you got someone like Jeremy, whatever his last name is, who works for a company who, I don't know if there was something circulating about a policy about paying back money in loans or whatever. There were so many typos on his website, on his business website.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. There were so many there. I wish I would have saw that before we went live on Monday, because then I would have said then that I knew it was a scam.
I'll be honest, man. When I initially heard the news, I was like, man, that fam, you did it. Like, that's good stuff. And again, me being a trusting person about how this wasn't, there's something fishy about this. I'm just like, nah, man, but again, For those of you saying people got to be held accountable, all I'm gonna say is this, and I'm gonna defend him. You can't hold the board of you can't hold the board of the FAMU Foundation board accountable if they don't know anything about it. You really can't even hold the board of trustees accountable if they don't know anything about it. I mean, that's one thing. I just think that's important, and that's the reason why I just kind of refuse to just throw everybody under the bus, man. Because again, what's the use of having these people at your disposal if you're not going to even take the time to acknowledge who they are? Our heads going to roll.
They should. And
okay, so I mean, we've already talked about the president. Is I hate is the president enough? And I want to hear the comments of those of you out there, those of you watching. The buck in this case, as far as I'm concerned, starts with Larry Robinson. And I'm not advocating for the man to lose his job, but I'm saying, what do you guys think? Is getting rid of Larry Robinson enough, or does it have to go deeper than that?
I think we'll probably won't have that answer until Wednesday. Of course, if you guys aren't watching, aren't familiar, Florida A&M is going to have an emergency board of trustees meeting Wednesday, May 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be open to the public. That might be the most virtually attended board meeting of all time.
You're talking about the trustees meeting?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Their board of trustees. The meeting that we had last week, that we saw last week, that we reported on, was the Florida A&M University Foundation. This is the board of trustees. These are the people that literally decide who stays and who goes on Wednesday. So that is going to be the most highly attended board meeting of all time. I guarantee it. So I don't think we'll know the full scope of what's going on here. But as of right now, you got to start with it. I mean, pardon the pun, Rattlers. You got to start with the head of the snake. And I mean, Larry Robinson right now just literally looks like he's the head of the snake with his head up his behind right now, because I mean, he literally just threw whatever goodwill and positive reputation his school was getting in the last few years under the bus for a dude who doesn't even look like he has a $237 million. He doesn't even look like he owns a Kia Sportage. I mean, like, really? I mean, this dude literally walked up there and like Jared said, I mean, he had his mask on wrong. That should have been sign number one that something wasn't right about this dude. But I mean, it's like, if you're the president of an institution, and like you said, Ken, this is U.S. News and World Report, all the big magazines, all the big trade media, the top public HBCU in these United States. I mean, there isn't an HBCU in Alaska. There isn't one in Hawaii. The lower contiguous 48, Florida A&M, biggest HBCU in the country, probably. And this dude literally just threw whatever goodwill they had under the bus for a dude who doesn't even look like like Jared said, typos on. And as another person, shout out to I think it was Adrian Crook who said in the chat that the CEO, the CEO, he made up a fake CEO, and the woman who allegedly was supposed to be he said, "Don't." She said, "My name Bennett, and I ain't in it."
Right. So you're right. Great point. So he brings up this is on CNN, and he lists on his website the person who CEO or co-CEO, co-founder, whatever the case may be. CNN reaches out to the lady, and she goes, "I'm not the CEO. I'm the that I don't know why I put my name out there." And then they asked the question, do you think he's capable of paying this $237 million? And if I understood correctly, they said, I don't think he's capable of paying anything. And I'm just like, wow. And so Victor Blackwell goes to the, saying that according to FAMU, and this is what was said, that this has been 6 months in the making. And yet he was able to find all of this information about this individual in 2 days. So again, we go back to Larry Robinson, because Jared, earlier you talked about all of the snafus that took place, about the locker rooms and so forth. But the thing that I will say this another, and this goes back to the days of the pandemic. And I don't know if I completed this point or not. If you guys remember, there have been some rumblings about, people were saying, football everything had been canceled. Everybody was just, was trying to see how everything was going to go about. But yet you still had some Power 5 programs. You had, like, I think Florida State, Ohio State, and a couple of other Power 5 programs who were trying to get individuals. Do you remember the voluntary workouts? And if I'm not mistaken, Ohio State was kind of making some headlines saying that they were asking some of their student athletes or the football teams, or just not student athletes, having them to sign medical waivers. If you want to come and do voluntary workouts, you have to sign a medical waiver. And even then, in my defense of HBCUs overall, because Morehouse, remember, made the statement, we're going to cancel football. As a matter of fact, Morehouse said we can cancel all sports. I'm like, yep, see, that's what we do. We take care of our own. And then I started hearing rumblings, FAMU, man, is making its players sign medical waivers. I'm like, what? And so I inquired. In Larry Robinson's office, somebody sent me a letter which included an actual release in which they admitted they were making FAMU student athletes sign a medical waiver form if they were going to go on campus to do campus workouts, when the fact of the matter is you had no business being on there in the first place. If Florida State, Ohio State, and all of these Power 5 institutions couldn't stop kids from catching a case of COVID, what made you think you could? And so now we fast forward here to 2024, and Larry Robinson is, for whatever reason, is taking it on himself to make these 9-figure deals, knowing that he's got resources on hand to do dude, they are there to do the legwork for you, and you can still shine, and you just leverage their expertise, but you decide to go it on your own, and look where you are now. So, okay, let me ask you this. So the folks out there in the chat are saying Larry Robinson, but now I do want to get to this. What are we to make about the actions of Christine Harper, who again is the chair of the board of trustees?
Well, first, let me just address Larry Robinson real quick, because I didn't get to speak about that. One thing as us as journalists, that a big part of our job is fact checking. Fact checking is very, very important, because it's the difference between being completely wrong or amazingly right. If you do not fact check, your credibility is shot. Larry Robinson, you did not do a good job fact checking this Jeremy person, because
and he didn't even have to. He didn't even have to do the legwork.
And he didn't have to do the legwork. That's the problem. So as far as whether his job should, that's above my pay grade to talk about whether or not his job should be taken or not. But what I will say is, this is an incompetence at a level you would not expect of a man in his position. He should thank his lucky stars if by the end of that board of trustees meeting on Wednesday, that he still is in his position. Because any other person at any other institution, it would not even be a question. Now, as far as Christine Harper, I have no knowledge of, her position and what her responsibilities are, so I can't really comment on what her culpability is, or what her level of knowledge was of the situation. But I will say this: you put your stamp on this allegedly without having all the facts.
Well, so let me just clarify that again. Assuming if that was indeed Kristen Harper who was in the photos, in those pictures that we saw posted on social media with Jeremy, she is the board She is the chair of the board of trustees. Larry Robinson reports to the board of trustees. She is the head of the board of trustees, and yet you have a member, Devron Gibbons, who went on CNN, who is a member of the board of trustees, and he didn't know about this gift. He didn't know.
So yeah, in that case, yeah.
I mean, right. So Larry Robinson, maybe there's a part that says, well, you know what? Hey, I went to the board. I went to the head of the board of trustees, and she signed on. She was good with it. Maybe that's an argument he can make. And I'm trying to be fair about this. I'm not trying. I'm literally. Again. I think that was her, and she's the head of the board of trustees, man. So, I mean, that's another way you got to look at it. We say he didn't do his due, but he went to board of trustees, the executive director who reports to Larry Robinson. I'm just saying, man, they're clearly protocols are broken, or you would think that just common sense of you've got the pieces in place to see if this deal is legitimate. You didn't utilize any of the resources. And again, I go back again to the names on that board, man. You got attorneys, you've got financial planners, you got entrepreneurs, you got people in charge of working with venture capital firms. I'm surely they would have snuffed this out.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How often, when a university receives a donation, how often is the board of trustees involved in vetting the validity of the donation and whether or not to accept it or not? How often is the board of trustees, or is that simply at the president's discretion?
Man, no. Look, when you're dealing with like this, I don't want to, again, I want to be careful because I guess the roles typically would vary from school to school. But I'll just put it like this, Jared. When a 9-figure gift is involved, 9-figure, like I said, remember, I said, I can see if this was 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, maybe even 10, maybe 25 million. This is 9 figures, man. There is no way in hell everybody who has any modicum of responsibility, the higher ups at FAMU, president's office, every single member on the board of trustees, every single member on the foundation, everybody should know about this. And for something this big, and I'm going to say this again, 9 figures. Something this big, you cannot call yourself trying to do it by yourself, thinking that it is all good when you've got folks who can just literally go out on social media and look this guy up, and they can automatically draw the conclusion that this guy ain't on the up and up. And I'll admit, I gave FAMU the benefit of the doubt, man. Cats got on me and said, Ken, you wrong. I'm like, yeah, I was wrong. Because my viewpoint was there's no way that FAMU could mess this up. But hey, we're gonna wrap this down, man. Final thoughts, people. Chris, what do you say to this?
This is not the last we have heard of this story, and it won't be for a long time, because once again, once that board, I'm telling you, that board of trustees meeting, it may be the one thing that breaks social media that hasn't broken social media in a long time. Because HBCU Twitter, if you're not familiar, is a place where you really, are going to get everybody's best shot. And Florida A&M has taken everybody's best shot as of late, but still, we don't know what's going to happen with this board of trustees meeting, because if it is true that Kristen Harper had a part in this, then it's just gonna be a domino effect, unlike anything we've probably seen from an HBCU leadership standpoint, probably ever. Because if we're talking about Okay, we know AD Sykes and Executive Director Friday Stroud report to Larry Robinson. You got that. Larry Robinson reports to Kristen Harper. And if Kristen Harper went ahead and didn't even consult with the other 10, 15, however many people on her board and said, you know what? They don't need to know about this. We good. That, to me, is probable cause for you to for your key card to be disabled. That day. Not the next day, not the next week, not the next month. Turn that in now. And literally, I just feel bad for the people who don't have anything to do with this, like the student athletes. I mean, we just missed out. I mean, we just found out yesterday that Florida A&M was due to make $15 million.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
and they can't even do that now because that money does not exist.
Right. So, I forgot about that. Yes.
Brag. I mean, they can't even brag different now. I mean, they can still brag different. They just want to brag different at a lower level. But yeah, they might still be able to brag different. They just want to keep it down. But yeah, $15 million that could have went towards making probably one of the better stadiums. Probably, it's probably the best on-campus stadium for HBCU football. Better. Can't even do that now because we don't even know if the money's there. So there's so many layers to this. And I mean, it's such a compelling story. I mean, it's humiliating and embarrassing for Florida A&M, but it gives us something to talk about. But yeah, overall, just Wednesday, we're all looking forward to Wednesday because Wednesday is going to be an absolute dog and pony show. And again, it's probably just going to be a little more, more details as the weeks and months progress. But right now, this just looks real bad on all levels.
Man. Jared, final thoughts, man.
President Robinson, I'm gonna say a prayer for you, brother, because man, just, and this is so upsetting because this is such a bad time for this to happen. Prayers to the Florida community who were affected by the tornado
right.
days ago.
Right.
And of course, the Florida community ain't serious because you had a bunch of kids that made this funny video where they were parodying the Bella Noche's thing, talking about there was a local restaurant that got hit, and they were like, "If you can't go here, where the hell can you go?" So they have they're in good spirits down there. But prayers to people who were affected. But this is such you got Florida A&M should be celebrating, their Celebration Bowl win. They should be, celebrating and welcoming in James Colsey in his first season, heading into the fall football season. They should be celebrating right now. They should be talking about getting their rings, and their ability to repeat, We should be talking about that. We should be talking about their women's basketball program and whether or not they're ready to take that next step into contending in the SWAC. We should be talking about Isaiah Major, who is currently in the New Orleans Saints rookie camp. We should be talking about Jeremy Musa, who is the reigning Cole Black College Football Player of the Year, who's at Tampa Bay Buccaneers rookie mini camp, and his chances of being the first HBCU quarterback to be on an NFL roster since the late great Tavares Jackson. Mm-hmm. We should be talking about all of that. All of the stuff around their athletic programs. We should be talking about, their commencement that just happened and all the students who are hopefully going to go on and have success in the selected fields that they will be entering in. We should be talking about that right now. We shouldn't be talking about some non-figure donation that's not a non-figure donation anymore. We shouldn't be talking about the president potentially losing his job because he didn't properly do his due diligence on the person who was sending him the donation. We shouldn't be talking about a CNN interview where a person who sent in a non-figure donation doesn't even have a CEO for a fake company. We shouldn't be talking about any of that. We shouldn't be talking about this man being on their commencement stage with his mask on wrong. We shouldn't be talking about any of this. But when you don't do the proper due diligence, this is what happens. I say it again. As part of journalism, we fact check. Fact checking is not just going on a computer and seeing if you can find things. It's consulting with other people. We make phone calls. we use the resources that we have at our disposal. And because allegedly President Robinson did not do that, he could be in for some dog days along with some other people who also signed off on this by proxy. So hopefully this works out for the best. We learn from this and we're able to move on. We make a couple of jokes because we're going to make jokes anyway.
Oh, we're going to make some, look. Oh my God, man.
But yeah, Florida A&M is going to be the brunt of the jokes for a while.
Ooh-wee. Anyway. Gentlemen, I appreciate it, man. To you all out there watching the stream, we apologize for the late start. Like I said, the technology bug hit us at the last minute, and we had to do a pivot. But look, hit that damn like button. Okay, can we get the likes up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already? You guys may be aware that before we go, not too long ago, we announced the HBCU Sports Awards, which is going to be coming live to you on July. Despite all of this mess with FAMU, we are going to still celebrate those individuals who don't necessarily get the credit they deserve for doing the work that they do and making it do what it do. And we're going to celebrate student athletes, and we're going to celebrate coaches, and we're going to celebrate those administrators who ain't got a problem looking up, letting their people do the heavy lifting. We're going to do all of that. Also, I'm wearing some merch here, man. Go to the shop, man. You can go to hbcusports.com, shop.hbcusports.com, and buy some merch, man. You support the channel with that as well, so I can pay these people, man, because Jared and Kendrick's told me I don't work on Saturdays. You don't pay me to work on Saturdays. I said, Kendrick, can you come in the show? I don't work on Saturdays. You don't pay me enough for that. I'm sorry. That's why Kendrick ain't here. So look, man, he's Chris Stevens. He's Jared Hoffman. I'm Ken Rashad. God bless you all. Thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to us, man. We will see you guys next time. God bless you.